All right, so let's get started with our film breakdown of the Chicago Bears versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And before I get started, big shout out to RT Software and their Tactic Pro Telestration system. That's what I'm using today to go through these plays with you guys. Now, the thing with the Chicago Bears that I noticed in this game was that there were a number of instances where this offense was just being operated in a way that didn't really adapt to what they were seeing from the Buccaneers on the defensive side. And in this first play, you're going to see a little bit of this show through, especially with the assignments between our tight end and our wide receiver, as well as just the overall awareness of what they're going against in this front from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, they're running an outside toss, which from the shotgun is kind of a difficult play to run to begin with. Doesn't really give you much of an advantage. You can't really stretch the defense like that. But as usual, we have our 4D linemen here. We have two linebackers. This is a 6-man box naturally. So this is actually kind of a desirable setup. If you're going to run from the shotgun, you want to be running into a 6-man box, not a 7-man box. But then inexplicably, for some reason, the Chicago Bears decide to bring another tight end into the frame, which brought another defender into the box. So they made it a 7-man box, much more difficult to run against in a shotgun. So let's take a look here at how this play starts off. Now, my first issue here is going to be with how the interior three of the offensive line actually handled the situation. They're supposed to play out this blocking scheme based on what the defense does. Now, Ndamukong Suh, what does he do with the snap? He goes inside. So the center here should be actually taking over this block instead of trying to get behind it to get upfield. And your left guard would be then going up to the second level to take 51, who is the called linebacker in this situation. Now, on the other side of this, I look at the receiver here who comes in on a crack block for who is essentially the defensive end. I think he's wrong here. I think he should be either heading up to this safety here, which is a much more desirable matchup, and our tight end who comes in on this motion should be taking over on the defensive end here on their D-end 50 Shaquille Garrett. With that being said, you have two Chicago Bear blockers on one man. So now the play is already dead. This is a dead play in the water. As you see here, you got two guys on one guy. That leaves two free runners. That leaves four free defenders on two blockers. You're not going to win that way. It's just not going to play out well for the Bears. So strategically here, there are a number of mental errors that cause this play to be dead in the water. Now here on the second play, this is one that baffled me very much so. As a young quarterback, as a rookie quarterback here, there are a number of things that he is completely unaware of as a rookie quarterback, that he is not getting necessarily any communication in knowing how to handle these in a game time situation. Now, let's look at this defense here from Tampa Bay first. Every defense that I've played against in the NFL in my career pretty much given you a good hint at what they're doing if you pay attention to their secondary. Now here, we have a situation where you have a roaming safety. Now this safety here, who is he covering? There is no one here that he's covering. You have a cornerback who is playing off, who you would assume, even if he's in zone, has got, deep responsibility on this receiver, and a safety in the middle of the field, another cornerback here to play out these buzz edges so that if you have any routes that come out here, you're going to be on top of those routes. And you've got somebody over the top to play on both sides. Now, if you look further into this, you have your 4-down linemen right here along the line of scrimmage. You have your 3 linebackers here. You have 2 tight ends and a receiver. So you have 1, 2, 3 people here to cover these 3 people. And then on top of that, you have this defender here to cover the running back. You look at this secondary and you see one man who is kind of standing in no man's land. Doesn't appear that he's looking to cover anyone. There has to be some kind of signal that the quarterback needs to be brought to him. And there has to be an awareness of the quarterback to look around and take a look at the defense before you snap the ball. Now, as we move forward here, you're going to see, like I just showed you, there's covered, one man who has no responsibility, and obviously a safety who is going to be playing over the top to cover anything should he get a ball deep into the secondary. Now, let's take a look at this. Not a chance in the world. Not a chance in the world when you're not aware of what's actually happening on the field. Now, again, I think that potentially Peters here gave a signal that there's a free defender in the boundary here who is not really being accounted for, but that really has to be up to the quarterback to have the vision to see, because the adjustment that you would make here, if you see this, is you would actually slide you would slide the front side of your line, which in a weird way is backwards, but you would slide your front side of the line to this blitzer. That would put your tackle on the blitzing safety. That would put your guard on the blitzing, on the firing defensive end, who is going to fire to the inside to make space for the safety to blitz. That would put this center on this nose, who's going to return this way. And these guys will be able to man up on the backside of this. We get none of that here. Matter of fact, we get the opposite. Now, initially, this would have been the called backer. You know, with nobody reacting to this man, this is the called backer. And that's what they block. They block as if this player here is the called backer. Whereas if you had an experienced offensive line, it's an experienced center and an experienced quarterback, before they ran this play, they would have checked off of this linebacker with a low call. That's what we would do. Low, that moves the call to this guy who's free. So now your tackle would know that he's safe to go to this safety and block this guy. Your guard would know that this defensive end is going to be firing inside, and he's going to go over here and he's going to block this guy. And your center would be by himself here, and your guard and your tackle would have their guys manned up on the backside. That's how this should have played out with experience. But instead, because this is the called backer, your interior three are paying attention here, which leaves your running back on the play action to have to dig back across and pick up the blitzing safety, who is actually his responsibility, which is that's a stretch. As you can see, that is a big stretch to have your running back have to take on something like that. That's not how you organize for your players to be in the best position possible to be successful. So that's what you get here with this situation, is putting the running back in a compromised position, and it leads to a sack fumble. Not good. Now, again, I said it before we started the last play. The secondary can tell you a lot about what's going on with any potential blitzes or any potential, trickery that they might be up to. And here you're going to see everything rotates like a pendulum. Again, you have this free runner at safety, but the difference here is that there's somebody that needs to be covered here. And you already have a cornerback who's covering on this receiver. So it's either going to be that this linebacker or this safety has to cover him. There's no there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. One of them has to cover. So you should know that if he's covering, whoever is not in coverage is a potential threat. Because if you go further down this pendulum, this linebacker here would likely have to be manned up on this running back. And then on top of that, if you've got these guys rushing, then potentially this would be another drop back defensive end who would drop back to a linebacker position. This is Jason Pierre-Paul. That's something that he does. That is something that he has done throughout his career. Drop back and play linebacker. So you already have 4 down right here with him as a fifth defensive lineman. So that's an alert. This should be a red flag immediately for the Bears if they've been studying their film. When this play gets going, that's exactly what happens. And they're not prepared for it. And it leads to the quarterback having to scramble. And, that can lead to bad things. So again, let's take a look here from the end zone. You're going to see we have exactly what I called, you have a zone blitz coming from the left side of the line. You've got 3 linebackers here. You've got 4 D linemen here. Everything rotates. Wherever people go, there has to be a replacement for what they left. So you're going to have linebackers coming off the edge. You're going to have defensive ends dropping into coverage. And this is something that is really not, this is kind of basic defense for the most part in the NFL. Now, as far as pass protection goes here, I feel like our tackle, 73, very bad position here. He should be going flat. If we go back here a little bit, when he does start his pass set, he should be coming flat down this line to pick up any potential threat in here. He goes into the line and he gets caught in the chest. He's not ready to strike and he's off balance. He's stumbling. Ndamukong Suh has his hips turned and now he has the edge. So this running back here, who is surely scanning for any threats, has to pick up this leakage here from our offensive lineman because that's a threat. Now, again, with how offensive lines block, this is unnecessary for our guard here to stay in here when you have a potential threat coming. This is a zone blitz. This guy is working away from you. If he works away, there is somebody who is coming to replace that gap because there has to be a defender there. So this is where you get your outside arm free and you're ready to take this defensive end that Jason Peters is on so that he can come off and pick up 51. This is the natural way that experienced offensive linemen, guys who have played together for a while, guys who have chemistry, this is how they would see these situations play out. This is how they would try to handle them to give themselves the easiest situation or give them the best opportunity to be successful during a play. Now here, because he doesn't get there, you've got a free runner. Got a free runner, your quarterback's rolling, he's getting punched in the face, all kinds of things happening here. Now, this play here, a little bit different. This one was weird. I think they were trying to catch the Bucs with 12 men on the field or something like that. But worst case scenario here. Worst case scenario for a scrambling young quarterback to just throw the ball up in the air. But let's take a look at this because there's a little bit that is actually done well here by the offensive line, and we need to kind of account for that. Now, I think here personally, with both of these tackles, the issue with turning your hips so early in your pass set is that now you are creating a situation where there is yards of space in between you and your potential help. Now, you don't have help here. This is manned up backside. So you definitely, absolutely want to be set firm with your shoulder pads at a 45-degree angle. You don't want to have your hips turned to the sideline because if he makes a second move to the inside, and this guy is much younger than this guy who is wholly experienced and understands exactly what the situation is, you are in deep trouble here of giving an inside move up. Now, Jason Peters is a vet. This guy understands how to protect himself, but he's also a much older Jason Peters than he was in his prime, and he can be susceptible to some things that he may not have been susceptible to in the past. Now, again, this is one issue here that I have with how Justin Fields is being groomed as the quarterback for the Bears. If you're really looking at this play and you understand the quarterback position, he was only given one read on this. He was only given one read because he stared down this side of the field his entire drop. He pump fakes here, and then he takes off and runs. That tells me that he is not even being told to look at other receivers and other routes. He may not even know what other routes are being run. He's being told to, if this route isn't there, then get out of the pocket. Now, with this situation itself, he has fairly decent blocking here. He's got good depth provided by his interior three. His tackle is giving him a good block here at the left tackle spot. Now, like I said before, if you just go back just a little bit here, Jason Pierre-Paul has already made his inside move because of the space that our right tackle has allowed in this area. So what happens? First contact on him is from Jason Pierre-Paul because he's a vet who understands what spacing can do for his pass rush. And now you have a quarterback who literally does the one thing you should never, ever do when you're in a situation like this: throw the ball up. This is not college football. This is the NFL. You throw the ball up, you're leaving yourself exposed to picks. Now, for the last play here, this is something, again, if you understand the sport of football and you understand how the nuance of defensive fronts, how they send out a defense based on the personnel groupings of the offense, then you would see here we have a 3-by-1 setup by the Bears. You have a tight end, a wide receiver, or you could say you got two wide receivers and a tight end. Either way, you've got three down here. You've got one receiver up top. So you've got to think to yourself, if you are a professional football player and you're in this situation and you look at this front as a quarterback, I say to myself, well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 D linemen. We have 1, 2, 3 linebackers, you could say. Who is this guy covering? What is he doing here? Is he a threat to blitz? Is this a threat to, is he going to drop? Is he going to move? What is going on? So with that, you take a look, and what it boils down to is that the Buccaneers are going to end up in a soft cover 3 here. Now, what they do to confuse this young quarterback is they actually switch roles between the defensive tackle, who will drop into this soft cover 3, and this linebacker who will blitz. But this is not a blitz, essentially. This is still a 4-man rush. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're just trading spots. So this is actually meant to confuse the quarterback, to make him feel more pressure than he's actually getting. And with these Bears and how they have been putting Justin Fields in these kind of precarious positions, it's going to work. Now, what does this mean from this end? It means that with this soft 3, they literally sit every defender at the top of the routes of all of these Bears players, which is bad strategy for the Bears, that they would only have routes that literally set and finished in the teeth of the defense. So there was nothing threatening over the top in this cover 3. There was nothing to threaten or stretch these defenders inside of the first down marker. So you literally have put yourself in a position where nobody is open at all. Your right tackle is beat almost instantly. And despite the fact that your running back actually does a really good job in picking up his block, and you actually do have good blocking, there is just nothing there for your offense to work with. And that is wholly the fault of whoever is strategizing these plays and whoever is picking these plays. Now, let's take a look at it from the end zone. Pass set, got to say, Jason Peters does a good job here. He does a good job. He gets his hands on him. He gets his guy wide, and he pushes him up the field. Now, our right tackle here, big problem. Look at where his hands are. You've got your hands above his shoulder pad. You have no striking surface whatsoever. And this is a Pro Bowler here. He might have one hand in the club, but don't get it twisted. This guy is a big threat as a pass rusher. And, you know, this is kind of the worst case scenario for a tackle, to have your hips turn to the sidelines like they are. His feet look like they're very close together, so there's no balance, no base there. He gets a rip from the defensive end, which essentially washes his hands off of him. And now he has a free run at the quarterback because you can't recover. Only thing you can do is push him in the back. But he's going where he wants to go, and that's going to be pretty much it. Now, the running back does a good job here of stepping up and getting this blitz. I feel like that's a very good job there. He goes inside out, uses the inside shoulder. Jason Peters does a good job here of sending Garrett up the field, and he's got space and depth. He just doesn't have the one block he needed to have here. And for a young quarterback like Justin Fields, who really does not know what the hell he is doing out there, this is where things can get really ugly. And of course, you have sack, fumble. Look at this man's swagger. He knows that he knew this was going to happen the moment he lined up for this play. He knew that he had it, and that's all she wrote. That's all there is to it. So that is my breakdown for the Chicago Bears against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below. What should the Bears do to get past this rough start to the Justin Fields era? Let me know. I am your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri. Appreciate you guys for checking out this O-line breakdown, and I will catch you all on the next video. Peace.